Hello, loved ones. This is Matt Stevens, and I am absolutely certain that you are having a fantastic day. I am. It's beautiful outside, but I had to get on here and do this. I just got to do it, okay? But I often talk about the nature of reality and things like that, right? And and I've touched on a little bit here and there as to why we are so programmed to not understand the true nature of reality. Why we are so programmed to, as I always say, produce, consume, and obey. I don't get into that a whole lot because I'm like, well, the why we're here, why we're under this oppression, for lack of a better term at the moment, anyway, is irrelevant in a lot of cases. Because what is relevant is when we do become aware of all of this, when you or I come to the realization that we are much more powerful than we have ever been led to believe. In fact, it's not hard to prove that there has been for centuries, there has been so much put into keeping the public, keeping humanity, the collective as a whole, in the dark, right? Like the CIA has the Gateway process, and it's a recently declassified document where they did a study into the nature of reality. And they discovered that by using binaural beats and just meditative states and all of that, that the human brain, the human brain is an interface that accesses the greater reality. And it's also been proven that, Dr. James Gates Jr., he is a physicist. He's brilliant. And now, if you go looking for some of his stuff, I do recommend you do that. However, understand he is a physicist, and it can be a little hard to follow. Let's put it that way. But it's fascinating, so it's worth the effort, is what I'm getting at. But in his studies with physics equations and just studying reality, studying the construct, studying the universe as a whole, they have found what he refers to as error correcting code built into the equations that define our reality. In fact, they have even found code, computer code, or what appears to be computer code built into what we call our governing principles of reality. Okay. Now, what does that mean to us? Because, like, I'm not a sciencey guy, right? So I'm like, that's very fascinating. It is. However, if you're going to get into the whole, really dig into the numbers and all of that and the equations, I'm probably gonna check out. But so I'm like, just tell me what you found, okay? I'm interested. I am, but tell me what you found. That's what I need to know. Okay, so that's what they found, was that there is error correcting code built into all of the equations and all of the governors of the universe. Okay, that's fascinating. Then you can take into account things like the double slit experiment, which double slit experiment proved that matter behaves one way when it's being observed, and it behaves another way when it's not being observed. And that's fascinating. What the double slit experiment did was I always butcher this, but just bear with me. They had a wall with two slits in it, hence double slits. And on the back wall was just a wall. Then they began firing particles, and they walked away. All right, went to lunch, we'll say. Then they came back. They expected the particles to go through one slit or the other, and then on that back wall form two lines. One for this slit, one for this slit. Well, that's not what happened. When they came back, there was what we call an interference pattern on the back wall, which would indicate that each particle went through both slits at the same time. And that's like, how would one go through two slits at the same time? And then, much like the ripples on water, when they both went through, they formed a wave, which then the waves interacted, and then hence formed the wave pattern on the back wall. Interference pattern, wave pattern, same thing. Which they were like, that's not at all what we expected. How did that happen? So they then set up a measuring device, a camera or something, some way of observing the particles as they went through the slits. So they let that go, and then they checked again, and it immediately started behaving as they had expected it to. Each particle went through one slit or the other. And they know this because on the back wall was just the two lines as expected originally. That was fascinating. So just the act of observation caused those to solidify into one thing. So therefore they could not go through one or the other. They couldn't go through both. They had to go through one or the other. So that tells us that only when things are observed does it become an actual thing in this reality. That is fascinating. Now, we want to know, we want to know, well, why have we, humanity, been led to believe that we are small and insignificant, sorry. I've been told I talk too fast by my good buddy Basu. If you're watching this, Basu, shout out. So, anyway, what was I saying? Small. We've been led to believe that we are small, insignificant, that the universe is just too big, just too vast. The speed of light is, for all intents and purposes, incredibly slow. Because then just to get to the nearest solar system, what TRAPPIST-1 is like 40 million light years. 40 light years. 40 light years away. Which indicates this is by classical science, you would have to travel at the speed of light for 40 years to reach the TRAPPIST-1 solar system. And while that's very close on the cosmic scale, it's out of reach. Because for one, we can't get to the speed of light. Hello. And two, even if we did, who's going to be willing to blast through space for 40 years? I'm sure there would be somebody that would do it, but it doesn't matter because whatever. Point is, we are told that everything is just out of reach. Everything is so vast. You may as well just accept the fact that you're small and insignificant. Just go to work and just be a good little worker bee and keep producing things. Just keep things going. Because if we, the public, we, humanity, were to be educated on the fact that we are larger than all of this, that we do have consciousness that can expand to the size of the universe, if we can break through all of those laws, what some would call governors of this reality. Governors of this reality would be things that are in place to keep things orderly. All right. But you do have that ability because, for example, speed of light. What's faster than the speed of light? The speed of thought is actually. You can expand your consciousness faster than the speed of light travels. You want proof of that? Look at Ingo Swann. I've been reading his book Penetration. It's fascinating, actually. But he remote viewed Jupiter back in the 70s before the flyby of the Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 craft, of the probes that NASA sent out into space back then. So he was like, I want to remote view that planet before they reach it and maybe discover some things about it that we don't know. Well, he did. For example, he discovered that there was a ring around Jupiter that we could not see until the probes got there and verified. Because when he said that, people were like, "Oh, there's no ring around Jupiter. You're crazy." Well, when the Voyager probes got there shortly after he did that, made that prediction or remote viewed it and verified he was correct. Point is, he projected his consciousness out to Jupiter. Now, if we're told that if we were to travel to it, it's going to take a very long time to get to Jupiter. Well, it didn't take him long at all. It took him a matter of minutes, maybe. I don't know how long it took him. It didn't say. Point is, the speed of thought, his consciousness, he expanded it that far, that fast. And I mean, I'm sure he did other things of that nature. I mean, he also remote viewed the backside of the moon, and that was also very fascinating. But I'm not going to get into that because that's not what's important. What's important is it has been proven time and again that that our true self, our true mind, outside of this 3D construct, is not bound by those same laws. Now, in your physical body, yes, it is. And we have to accept that and respect it because we cannot cause things to happen in our 3D realm if we do not observe those laws. So we do have to understand that, like it says in the Kybalion. Even though we understand that all is mind and that it's all an illusion, just because we know that doesn't mean we're not bound by the laws of it while we're here. However, your consciousness, your true mind, which exists outside of this, is not bound by those things. It would be in their best interest, the controllers, wrapping this back around, it would definitely be in their best interest to keep us dumb, to keep us not hip to the game. Because if the public at large were to be educated on their true nature, to be educated on how very powerful of a entity you are, well, then there goes control, right? All of the control mechanisms that have been installed, such as religion, such as government, such as a lot of things, all of that would go away. Because then people would be able to create their own reality, right? But there are those of us who have discovered that. But we've also discovered that humanity as a whole, through the media, through education, all of these things have been brainwashed, or for better, I like to see, have been programmed to believe that this is all there is. You are this physical body. Yes, you have a mind. It's inside your head. It's not out there. And you're going to live until you die, and that's it. Maybe you go to heaven, maybe you go to hell, right? Another control mechanism so that you don't get out of line. So, and it does go a lot deeper than this. I know it does, because there are entities outside of this, because then you go into, well, who created all of this then? What's the purpose of it all? That's a whole other topic. But for now, I was going to touch on the kind of this conspiratorial side of things. Why is all of this stuff kept so secret? It's kept so secret so that we remain as good little worker bees, as I've often said. But not you, dear loved one. Oh no. You are ahead of the curve, let's say. You are exploring these things. You are learning, you're growing, reaching some kind of enlightenment or ascension. Sorry, enlightenment and or ascension, and growing beyond this and discovering your true power. And I also believe that that means that once you do know that, that would make you what would be considered dangerous. Because if you learn those things, we can't let you stay here and possibly let the cat out of the bag. So I got to believe that if once you discover these things, this is probably your last incarnation in this realm. And you will be said, hey, good job, buddy. You figured it out. Now move along. Because we don't want you teaching anybody else that stuff. So there you go. Anyway, loved ones. Yeah, I had some notes, but I completely just spitballed this one. But yeah, if you would, please give me a like on this video. I would so appreciate it. And if you have not subscribed to this channel yet, I'm asking you, dear loved one, please do so. I would really appreciate that. And you can also follow me on X. Everything I do, I post to there. And also, we can interact there if you wish. And there you go. So, that's what I got, loved ones. I do love you. And I will be back directly.